So hello and welcome back to the first Champ.ie podcast of the new year. Happy New Year to our listeners. This week we'll be previewing the Lawlors of Naas Novice Hurdle, which I suppose traditionally would have pointed us towards the Ballymore and the Albert Bartlett at the Cheltenham Festival. Special guest on the show this week is Paddy Kennedy, and I'm joined by the regulars, Mr. Mike Vince from SES, Ronan Groome from the Irish Field, and ABW is back with us once again. Good evening, lads. Happy New Year to you.
Very good. And a very happy New Year to you and all your families, friends and mother-in-laws.
And Mike, you were telling me there off air that clock hasn't moved. We need a set of batteries.
We decided that we're going to have a whip round because you haven't backed a winner this year. That's why you can't even afford it. You can't even afford a set of batteries. You know, the clock, it's 10:15. And it always was 10:15. You can set your watch by it if you're doing it 10:15.
And the Welsh Grand National is where we're going to start this weekend. It's the 3:10 at Chepstow. We have an inspection tomorrow, lads. Mike Vince, I suppose we did preview this on the Christmas preview, but it never went ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I still can't work out why the protocols refused to allow owners and everybody else into racing, but yet Jack Frost seems to get in somehow. He seems to have his own set of protocols, and obviously there are inspections all over the place. They've put the covers down at Chepstow, and their fingers, toes and everything else crossed. It's all going to be okay. As a race, most of those that were due to appear first time round are in the race, and it's every bit as hard and as tough. And it's going to have to be the season's target for somebody. 23 fences, 18 runners. I hope that Ramses Datai, who I actually suggested as the winner first time round, will oblige. I think you can safely ignore his run at Aintree. David went there, of course, with the two horses, namely Ramses Datai and Vieux Lion Rouge. We knew that Vieux Lion Rouge loved the fences. We didn't know about Ramses Datai. The one thing we know for sure is that Ramses Datai hates the fences. The other one, if he gets the trip, and it will spark widespread scenes of celebration the length and breadth of Liverpool, he's got his ground, is the Hollow Ginge.
Interesting. Just give you a quick show of betting. 10-3 Secret Reprieve, 7-1 Springfield Fox, Truckers Lodge 8-1, Christmas in April 9-1, The Two Amigos 10-1, Dominator for Oliver Sherwood and Gavin Sheehan 11-1, Lordimus Seal, Mesnell. Sorry, lads. Second, of course, in the 4-miler last year at Cheltenham. He's a 12-1 shot. Prime Venture, second runner for Evan Williams, 12-1. And it is 14-1 the rest. Andrew Blair White, you've been singing about this Dominator for this race for quite some time. Make your case.
Yeah, look, his best chase form comes at Chepstow. He's won 2 times over fences there before, both over 3 miles, both on soft to heavy ground. I've always thought that a long distance handicap like this was in him. I think his mark is workable from what it is. Gavin Sheehan's now on him. I think it was Brendan Powell was going to ride him on the 27th because Gavin Sheehan, I think, had an injury or something. But he's now back on him, which is no bad thing whatsoever. Only problem with this horse is he's inclined to make a mother of all mistakes in the middle of his races. He would need to eradicate that to win this type of a race, but he does have it in him. He's got the course form. He's got a lot going for him. I think the softer and heavy ground is right up his alley. And as I say, I think if he was to put together a decent enough round of jumping, I can't see him being out of the frame. I'd be taken on the favourite all day long in this. I don't know how you could be backing anything at 100-30 at 3 mile 6 on heavy ground around Chepstow. I just can't see the angle behind that whatsoever.
I think he's gone up £11, Secret Reprieve, and one of my fancies in the race is at quite a big price, but I'll take a chance each way on Captain Drake at 20-1. He's quite a big price, and he's only had the 7 starts over fences, and I think off 140, he won last year off 127, and won over hurdles this year off 137. So he's come up quite a bit in the ratings over fences, but I just thought he's had a run at Chepstow last time. Look, he was beating a good 34 lengths. He'd have to improve, but as I said, he hasn't had that many runs over fences. He enjoys soft ground, and he was one of the bigger price rolling that was I am going to play him. The ones at the top of the market, Too Short, Secret Reprieve in particular. Ronan, had you any fancies?
He has gone up like £12, Secret Reprieve, but he only has a £4 penalty, so he's £8 well in. So I do understand why he's favourite and clear favourite, but I'd be tend to agree with Andrew here, because I just think 4-1 around Chepstow on heavy ground, which it will be if they do get the go ahead, is probably just a bit too short. Look, it's the race is basically as we left it on the 27th, and the horse that I liked then was the Two Amigos. I thought he ran an excellent race there last season. He was 5th, and he turns up here off the same mark, and he'll probably be underrated on the day because he was 2nd, well beaten by Secret Reprieve last time. So everyone's going to concentrate on that form and think that he has no chance of switching the form around there. But it's a 6 furlongs more. It's heavy ground. You know he's proven to Two Amigos, whereas Secret Reprieve's got to go and stay the extra 6 furlongs. The other one to mention, I think, give a strong mention to Springfield Fox. I love the preparation. I love the run over hurdles, because obviously you don't touch your chase mark then, and it's always a sign of Connections having a bit of confidence that he is well handicapped. He was the heavy ground winner on Exeter last season, so he's teed up nicely for this. I'm pretty sure Connections will be praying that it gets to go ahead, because they seem to have concentrated his whole first half of the season over this. So I can see why he's around 7-1 mark. But the one for me, just with the coming back here off the brilliant run in the race last season, a year older for Nicky Martin, the Two Amigos, he's proven over the course and distance, and like a lot of these, he'll be teed up nicely for this. So I can see him going really well again.
If we don't get the winner out of that lot, we may pack it in, lads. The next race, the 125 at Chepstow, is the Grade 1 Juvenile Hurdle, and it has cut up a little bit. I suppose we don't have the Irish runners. Quilixios and Dufflecoat were both entered for Gordon Elliott. You probably were going to expect to see one of those, Andrew Blair White, but we have Nasalam at even money, and of course, this is a horse that you've flagged up for the Triumph Hurdle. If he's going to be a Triumph Hurdle horse, he'd have to be fairly spanking this lot, wouldn't he?
Well, he'd want to be winning this, yeah. It was a bit of a punt at the start of the season at 25-1 for the Triumph. He's now down to 16s. I'm sure if he absolutely romps in this, he'd be a single-figure price by the end of Saturday. I don't think it's a betting race on Saturday, though. I wouldn't be touching anything at even money or 10-11 in a juvenile race on that heavy ground. I'd just leave him win, and hopefully he'd enhance an anti-post docket more than anything. I think probably the most solid horse in there to potentially cause not an upset, but to real worry him is this Adagio. I do quite like him. He's a solid enough horse. I'm not sure whether he'd be up to winning or running into a place in a Triumph, but he is a pretty good horse, and his form behind Dufflecoat looks good, and he then won at the December meeting at Cheltenham, so he'd have to have a chance. I'd take on that Who Gree all day long for Paul Nicholls. Look, I don't like those horses when I don't have any notion of the French form. I think he's quite short for what he is, so hopefully Nasalam wins, but it wouldn't be a betting race for myself.
Mike Vince, you've been speaking to David Pipe a couple of times this year. Has he mentioned Adagio to you?
No, he hasn't mentioned Adagio. I mean, actually, proves the things I do in my life. I just remember Adagio finishing 2nd on his debut. Wait for it, in a 6-furlong field race at Krefeld in Germany. I had to do when I was race calling it. And you're totally playing the unknown here of the ground. And it will be very, very testing, particularly for these horses. And I'm interested in this amazing name. Is it Yggdrasil? There's obviously some French in there. There's obviously some Welsh in there. Part Welsh, part Brazilian. Nick Williams does very well with these sort of horses. Got Gavin Sheehan up, 3rd behind Elton Valley at Sandown. But he might just improve because of the ground. He might be a more likely contender for me than Elton Valley on this ground. But of course, it puts one of David Pipe's principal patrons, namely John White, and they've had the likes of Dynast, and more recently they've got that horse that sadly is out for the Israel Champ, taking on Adagio. Messy race, not sure about any. I'd be very surprised if Pyramid Place is good enough. Mr. Shady, did they name that after you, Barry? Probably not good enough either. But you can take your pick out of the others. Horrible race to try and pick the winner of.
Mr. Shady. Jeez, I've been called better than that, Mike Vince. Adagio would be looking to keep that mark, maybe similar enough for something like the Boodles, maybe later on the season. 3:30 at Kempton. There's no talk of inspections at Kempton, and the ground is currently soft. At the moment. The big race we're going to preview at Kempton, we have two grade twos to mention, but we are going to talk with the Lanzarote Hurdle, which is the 3:30 on the card. It's a listed race over 2 miles and 5 furlongs. Everglow is the 5-1 favourite for Philip Hobbs. One True King is 8-1. Glyn for Nicky Henderson is 10-1. Hunter's Call 10-1. Misty Whiskey is 10-1. Shantang 10-1. Amor de Nuit is 12-1. White House is 12-1, and it's 14-1. The rest. Ronan Groome, dissect this. That big handicap on Saturday at Kempton.
Yeah, when I was going through the race, I didn't look at the odds, and the one that stuck out like a sore thumb was the favourite, the joint favourite in Everglow. I just thought he was really solid on the form with Stargate, who obviously has got grade 2 form now, and he's off mark of 126. He was beaten by Stargate, who's now gone on to be rated 145, and he won quite nicely last time at Ascot Everglow, and he's his first time tongue tie as well. So I can see why he's up there favourite. I always like to kind of go down the market a bit here, and the kind of two I fell on were Shang Tang and Castle Robin, who was second last time at Ascot. I quite like that run. That was just his 5th start. He stayed on nicely up the straight. I thought that race worked out okay. So he kind of stuck out as like a unexposed type that might improve here, stays the trip, goes on soft ground, and Shang Tang might be just a bit more unexposed as well. He's had a few starts. He beat Southfield Harvest quite well in Ascot, and then went on to Wincanton for the big race there on St. Stephen's Day, and he fell at the first, but Southfield Harvest went on to finish second to a good horse called Jacamar, so kind of boosted the form in the process. So I could see him running well. Castle Robin will be my selection in the race, Barry, just now each way, but I wouldn't put anyone off back in the favour.
Yeah, I can see this Everglow glowing off a very short favourite for this race, run 5-1 at the moment. I think there's a lot of value still there to be had with him, and I think you could put his handicap mark you think he could smash it out of the water, his current mark of 126, as you said, form tying in with Stargate. And I think it's a sort, even from speaking to Philip Hobbs on the podcast, I think, he's even quite excited to see him running in a maiden last time. He ran on the Friday of Ascot, just the weekend before Christmas. And I just say, obviously, you're probably going to see the best of him over fences in time. But this horse, I think, will be running in great company, I think, before the end of the season. That's my thoughts on Everglow. I think, soft ground is going to suit him here. Richard Johnson said the last day as well that, he wanted to put him in behind horses. He took a lead, whereas on his previous start, he had to make his own running. So I think he has the experience now. I think the ability is there. I think 126 for him. He's off a lightweight, as you said, tongue strap on for the first time. He's actually my nap of the weekend at 5-1. Andrew Blair White, would you find something at a bigger price here, or would you concur with my good self?
Well, I don't know about you, Barry. You had me convinced from Monday's podcast that Entrucas, who's finished, I think, second 9 times, is actually a 170 horse in making. But you made another competitive case there.
He's rated 138 now, so I think the words.
You told viewers he had 2 stone in hand, so
a stone and a half at least.
Yeah, well, I wonder why he's not running in the champion chase. But look, it's a race. I actually quite fancy the horse called Jabesti Man in this race. I know he's not running. I was really sweet on him. He would have won the race last year, but tipped up at the last, 2.5 lengths clear. As a result, I don't really have much of a say in the race. I wouldn't put anyone off Ronan's horse there, Castle Robin. He was a horse I thought had a chance. And the other one that just always is a pretty reliable each-way angle in these types of races is Hunter's Call. He's probably very vulnerable from a win perspective, but if I got out of this race with a 12-1 place, I'd be pretty happy enough. He's come fourth in a Greatwood, fourth in a Galway Hurdle. He'll have to be landed on the doorstep if he was to win this race, because he doesn't seem to go through with his efforts, but he's the likely type that he'd be cantering there 2 furlongs out and might just stay there in 3rd or 4th. It wouldn't be a race I have a massive say in, but I'd be very surprised if Hunter's Call was out of the money.
Mike Vince, did you thoughts?
Well, I was listening to someone far more eminent than me saying that if he could get out 12 to 1 each way, he'd be happy. I'd be very happy to get out each way at about the same price on a horse that none of you have mentioned, a horse called the White Mouse. She's won 2 races. She won a decent race at Wincanton for mares, and then she won that mares race that was a bit of a nonsense at Cheltenham last time. And I just think that 11.4 is not a bad weight for a one way and another. I think she's got a real chance. Big field, maximum field going to post, and she's unbeaten. And if you take one fallout last year, she's a mare in decent form. The yard don't have many runners, but what they do have to do a very, very good job with. I'm going the White Mouse each way here.
Lads, we're going to just take a quick look at the 2 Grade 2s on the card at Kempton. The Relkeel, of course, which is rescheduled. McFabulous goes in here, and Imperial Aura goes in the Silviniaco Conti chase. Mike, I know you're a fan of Imperial Aura. Does he take all the beating here?
Yes.
We'll move on. Relkeel Hurdle, Andrew Blair White, McFabulous. Does he take all the beating here?
Yeah, I think McFabulous wins this and Imperial Aura wins the chase, but I'd much rather back McFabulous at 13 to 8 than Imperial Aura at odds on.
And Ronan Groome, I suppose, had you thoughts on either or?
Yeah, I like one in the Relkeel. It's a horse named after your early dating life, I think, Barry. You can have a guess which one it is there. You Never Call for Kim Bailey and David Bass. I just think he's rock solid at Kempton. He's got really good form there for over the course and distance, and he ran really well in the Grade 1 last time at the good Grade 1, the 3 mile Grade 1 at Ascot behind Paisley Park. I was surprised that he was 4 to 1, and I know McFabulous is nice form, and he didn't stay the last day and come back to this trap. This trip will suit, and the trap will probably suit him as well. But I didn't make him a 13 to 8 shot against some of these like Thomas Darby, Somerville Boy. Solid enough yardsticks around this sort of distance, and I didn't think McFabulous is that strong a form to warrant being a 13 to 8 shot. I'd rather take on the field at 8 to 13 against McFabulous than back him at 13 to 8, and I just thought You Never Call was the most solid out of the other ones with this course and distance form. He ran really well in handicap hurdle off a mark of 154 on his seasonal debut here, and then went on to run that 4th on the Grade 1. So I give him a big chance for Kim Bailey. I think Kim Bailey will win both the Grade 2s, and Imperial Aura should do the business as well.
Yeah, coming on to the big action at Naas on Sunday, lads, the 2:30. Which is the Lawlors of Naas Novice Hurdle Grade 1, won last year by Envoy Allen, and always, I suppose, serves up pointers looking towards the Cheltenham Festival. And a special guest on the podcast this week is Paddy Kennedy, of course, who rode Ashdale Bob and Crosshill both to victory, and are both entered up here for Jessica Harrington. So Paddy Kennedy, delighted to have you on the Champ.ie podcast. It's been a very good season for yourself.
I think 15 was my best season. I had my 15th winner on Sunday, so all was going well.
I suppose the big race on everyone's lips this weekend is the Lawlors at Naas Grade 1 Novice Hurdle. That's on Sunday. As we're speaking, I suppose Jessie has 2 entered for the race, and you've ridden both to victory this season so far. Ashdale Bob, who won the Bet Victor Grade 2 at Navan last time, you were on her back. It seems to be a good feeder race for the Lawlors at Naas Novice Hurdle over the years. Were you surprised, I suppose, how well he did it at Navan last time?
I wasn't. I wouldn't say I was surprised, because he's a horse we hold in high regard. He won his maiden hurdle very well, and we liked him last year when he just got very weak after his 3rd run. I suppose the manner he done it in, we might have been a bit surprised, but it wasn't a big shock when he went and won the race.
Yeah, and after the race at Navan as well, you mentioned maybe going up and trip wouldn't be an issue to him. The 2 miles 4 at Naas on heavy, that probably looks suitable for now, though.
Yeah, sure. It was heavy. It was soft to heavy in Navan when he won the last day, so I don't see why it'd be any inconvenience to him now, But he's a horse that'll stay 3 miles, no bother as well, but 2.5 is fine for the minute.
So you've sat on a few fair smart ones in Jesse's. How smart do you think he might be?
It's hard to know. He has the benefit of he was a maiden last year, so he's a lot of experience towards a lot of the novices he's coming up against. He'll need to progress again. He'll need to improve, but he is very smart. We hold him in high regard.
Coming on to Crosshill then, he made a striking impression when he won first time up over hurdles at Punchestown. Again, you were on his back. Were you surprised? I suppose he was beaten over 2 miles the last time, given, I suppose, the manner of his victory first time out.
Yeah, no, it was no surprise that he won the first day. He was probably only about 70% fit that day, but he's a horse we've always thought an awful lot of. Things that didn't go right from his first year. The race, the last day, I think he just done too much the whole way. He was dropped back to 2 miles and he was keen and maybe just didn't get home. Maybe from the last home, he just never got home. But the step up to 2.5 again on Sunday will suit him again. He's a very smart horse, I think.
Do you think, I suppose, this might be his trip, or could he go further up in trip as the season goes on?
I think you probably won't see the best until he steps up to 3 miles. He's probably, given the connections that own him and that, I'd say the Albert Bartlett will probably be his target. But just working him at home, he just feels like the further you go, the better he is. So I'd say 3 miles could be his optimum trip. Heavy
ground, not an issue?
No, I don't think so. It was tacky enough dead ground the day he won, and in Punchestown he handled it fine. That was 2.5 that day, and he hit the ground. He hit the line hard. So no, I don't think ground is an issue to him either.
And Sizing Potsy, he gave you a nice day at Fairyhouse last time when landing the Boyle Sports Grade B. He's some flashy entries, and I suppose the Champion Chasers was an entry that jumped off the page to me. What's your thoughts, or what is the thoughts on him going back over hurdles this weekend?
Just there's no real race for him over fence at the minute. He has he's an entry in the Dan Norby's top weight, and probably unfair to go around him with that much weight around there. And he's an entry in the Clarence House as well, but just with the travel restrictions and that, nothing is guaranteed. So this race came up for him over hurdles, and it was just seemed the sensible thing to do because he's knocking the door down to run. So this race was here this weekend, and they did run him in that.
He seems non-complicated. He must have given you a good spin last time.
Yeah, he's a very exciting horse. He always has been from day one, but he just had a few issues after he won his bumper. I think hopefully he can be top drawer now over fences.
Yeah, speaking about the Dan Moore, because we did mention it there, the Dan Moore Memorial. Jesse also has impact factor on. You obviously have said now that Sizing Potsy might not go that route. So he's gone up £11 for his victory in November. That's impact factor. It's probably likely that we'll see him there then.
Yeah, you could see him there. If Chosen Weight keeps the weights down for him, he won't have top weight. He's an exciting horse as well. He'd been off the track for over a year when he came back and won that race in Fairyhouse. Sean O'Keefe gave him a lovely ride. He travelled and jumped like a buck the whole way, and with it being his first run in so long, he's improved for the run again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him land another big pot somewhere along the line.
Yeah, interesting. So we're sticking with this weekend. Emily Moon is another one, I suppose, that looks like a 2 mile chaser. I suppose she's only had the 5 starts. She's entered this weekend in the East Coast Seafood and Goulding's handicap chase. She'd surely have to have a chance off 129, would she?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she won her beginners, and I was placing her in a grade 3. I don't know if it's a grade 3 or a listed chase, so she has a bit of black type over fence already. She ran very keen on Punchestown 2 runs back. It was her first run of the season. She ran a bit pretty early on and still managed to run well. Her next run then, it was 2.5 miles in Fairyhouse, and she just didn't see out the trip. And I rode her Leopardstown the last day. I was third in her. She led till 50 yards before the line, and I think 2 miles around Naas now could be the ideal trip for her. She can go down form. She came out of Leopardstown very well. So yeah, I'd be expecting her to run a big race on Sunday if she runs.
Brilliant. Magic of Light, I suppose, a horse that means quite a bit to you, Paddy. She looked in fine fettle at Newbury last time, and I believe the Mayor's Chase at Cheltenham might be on her agenda.
Yeah, she's actually got to go an entry in the World Cup now as well. I rode her in Punchestown, her first run of the season. Was delighted with her. She came on a lot for the run and went to Newbury then and won very well. I'm not sure again with the travel restrictions what way they're working. Ascot was supposed to be her next target, but I'm just not sure what way it's going to work now with these. I know horses can travel, but staff can, so I don't know what way it'll work. But April is her main target, the Grand National again, and I don't know. I think she's after getting a lot stronger since the first year she ran it. So she's been around there and performed well around there. So hopefully she can go one better this year.
Never Rush You Con, I suppose another 10-year-old, won a Punchestown was not on his first start this season. Finished 5th in last year's cross country chase. How's he been since his December run at Cheltenham? Were you guys disappointed?
Yeah, he just came home a little bit stiff out of it. He's cantering away there now. He's in good out form. Obviously his main target is the cross country race in Cheltenham. He's a legend of a horse, is the only way to describe him. He took to the banks like a duck to water. There's not many horses that have won on the flat, over hurdles, over fences and banks races. And he's done it all, and he's been in Jesse since he was a yearling. So everybody loves him and everybody's rooting for him.
He's like the pet.
Yeah.
Paddy, before this, come on to a couple of questions from Twitter. One horse I wanted to ask you about was Discordantly. He ran a cracker actually in the Tri-Town. He's only 7, and I thought there might be maybe potentially a big pot in him this season. Would the Tiestes be on the agenda for him?
Yeah, I'd say the Tiestes is his next target. His last run was in the Paddy Power. It was a funny race. We didn't go we didn't go that fast early on, and we got it kind of turned into a sprint, and he just got caught for toe. I think a race like the Tiestes, on heavy ground is right up his street. There's definitely a big pot in him.
Yeah. Coming on to a couple of questions from Twitter, Paddy. Gavin Cawley asks, Autumn Evening ran a good race behind Xanaphir at Leopardstown. Could there be more to come from him this season, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I put a line through that run the last day. They went very steady early on, again turned into a sprint. He's a horse that stays galloping. I'm not sure. I'd imagine either the Fred Winter or the Grade 1 Juvenile in Cheltenham. I'd say either one of them could be his main target for the season, but he's an exciting horse.
We spoke about Crosshill already. Eddie Sheehy asks, what's your thoughts on Crosshill, and what do you think his most likely target is for Cheltenham? But you after saying that, potentially maybe the Albert Bartlett, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's a very exciting horse, and just going by his connections, I'd say he's going by Ronnie Bartlett, so I'd say the Albert Bartlett would be his obvious target.
And finally, Paddy, it was great to chat to you and great to have you on the show, but is there any horse, I suppose, we haven't mentioned for the Champ.ie listeners that we might see in the winner's enclosure this season? Maybe one that we haven't mentioned, maybe one that we have. A dark horse, perhaps.
Yeah, the horse that won the bumper today, I won in Crosshill in Punchestown. His name escapes me now.
Is it by Elusive Pimpernel, by any chance?
Yeah, the Elusive Pimpernel horse, yeah. I can't think of his name now.
I think it's Present Ever, or Ever Present.
Oh, Ever Present, yeah. He's very exciting.
Looks a smasher, Paddy. He's fairly imposing. That he looked like he was.
Yeah, he's a very nice horse. He won the bumper well that day. He only won he was going away, and the day he ran in Navan in the Lissa bumper was just extremely heavy that day, and just being a 4-year-old, he might have just got home, and he's one for the notebook anyway.
Yeah, great to hear from Paddy here, lads. Give you a quick show of betting for the Lawlors of Naas Novice Hurdle. It's Bob Ollinger 6-4, Blue Lord 5-2, Ashdale Bob 3-1 for Jessica Harrington, Crosshill 8-1 for Jessica Harrington, Farouk Dalan, I'd be surprised if he turned up here, 10-1, Mighty Blue for Joseph O'Brien is 12-1, wide receiver Andrew Blair, White, your eyes will be on him. It's 12-1 shot. Flanking Maneuver 16-1. Gabby Nacco for Gavin Cromwell 16-1. Ragnar Lodbrook is a 20-1 shot. And Great Bear for Thomas Gibney 50-1. Ronan Groome, we'll start with you. You were a big Ashdale Bob fan. Last time he was impressive. Were you surprised how well he won?
He won nicely, Barry, but the race did fall apart a bit because Holy Macapony was well fancied there, and Fighter Allen for Willie Mullins. So the big two kind of never ran a race. They were both pulled up, so it did kind of break up a bit for him. That said, he was impressive. He travelled really well into the race, come up the rail, and won going away, and he won the race. That I think is a very good pointer to this race, the 2.5 mile, because this used to be the Grade 1, and then they moved the Grade 1 to Naas, and this. The Navan race is a Grade 2 now, so it's turned into a nice feeder race for the Naas race. So you give him every chance. I thought Crosshill would probably be the interesting one, Barry, because the horse he beat in his hurdle at Punchestown there was Vanillier, who ran quite well when he was second to Farouk Dalan down in the Grade 2 at Limerick over Christmas. That seems like quite strong form now, and back up to 2.5 miles. I think the 2 mile trip from last day was a bit short. I thought he was the interesting run at around 8-1, but it's a good race. Probably maybe not as good as it has been in recent years with the likes of Envoy Alan and things like that. But I think a good horse could emerge from it.
Mike Fince, what did you make of the Mullins runner, Blue Lord? I thought he was the one I was probably going to side with in this. I kind of thought he was impressive, beating Julie Stowaway. Obviously, will have to improve again, but he wasn't He didn't go away and win on the bridle, but I thought he showed a good attitude.
Yeah, and the other thing I've got to say about this is obviously Jigginstown hold the key because they've got 5. I don't know what's going to turn up at Jigginstown. But with so many of these novice races, you're actually thinking, well, what did finish second? They all won so easily that nothing actually sort of got involved in a scrap. You think he's an unlucky second. And Blue Lord's 1 from 1. He's the only one that goes in with that sort of a record. I'll chuck a couple in here. I would think Gabby Nacco is a distinct possibility for no other reason than he's won at the track. I think that's a big plus around Naas. Didn't mind the uphill finish, and I think he's got a really good each-way chance. If he were to turn up again, and I'm saying that because he only ran, was it last Sunday? There was a lot to like about the way Flanking Maneuver went about his work. Won at Fairyhouse, won very easily. But as I say, will they run him again so soon? But again, Gabby Nacco each way, I like the thought of. Yeah, he was 3rd last time in that race, in that Grade 2. But that Navan race looked a decent contest, and he didn't just win it. He was, so far clear like you are at last orders away from the bar. I think he's got an each-way chance.
You pulled it off of Flooring Porter for Sound Connections, Mike Vince. I wouldn't dismiss you there, I suppose. Andrew Blair, White, your thoughts on this one? I'm intrigued to know.
Yeah, well, I think it's a bit of a tragedy that we haven't discussed Bob Ollinger yet, who's the favourite, and I suspect the only horse in the race that actually could win it, like Envoy Len won it last year. He comes with a tall reputation. I wouldn't be playing him myself just at the prices, but I think he's the best prospect of these going forward. I think he'll be a mighty horse next year over a fence. He hasn't done anything wrong so far, so I think it's remiss that of us not to have mentioned him. I just looked at you can look at William Hill's prices for the race right now, and Ashdale Bob is 4-1 with William Hill, and I just thought that was as safe an each way bet as you're going to get in this race at 3 places. As Mike said, this race could cut up. I still think this race could end up being 6 or 7 runners. And I just think he's not going to be out of the 3. If something like a Bob Ollinger or Blue Lord is potentially very classy, yeah, they'd probably beat him, but then you're getting 4/5 of your stake back. It wouldn't be a bet I'd usually have, but I looked at the race, couldn't quite bring myself to back Bob Ollinger at the prices, and Ashdale Bob just brings a very robust level of form. That maiden hurdle, he beat Wide Receiver and Shadow Rider, both have won since, and Falcano and Kilbury Warrior, who were both beaten 10-15 lengths, have both placed in maiden hurdles since. That's probably one of the best maiden hurdles of the year so far, form-wise. And then he won a grade 2. I understand what Ronan was saying about the 2 market principles flopping, but he still won by 6 lengths against Fakir. I think Fakir has a chance in the Bartlett. So I think he's rock solid in this race. And if he's out of the front 3, I'll be eating my hat.
Yeah, it's an interesting race. It looks a competitive race, lads, once again.
Yeah, can we have that live on next week's podcast, please? Mr. Andrew eating his hat.
Yeah, well, hopefully I won't require it, but
he'll be eating his hat when an Erginine hacks up in the 2 mile novice chase. So it was a brilliant race last year, I suppose. When I say a brilliant race, it was a competitive race. It looks an even better race this year. Captain Guinness, I suppose, is the opposition here. Andrew, we'll come to you on this race. It could turn out a very good race again.
Yeah, looks a great race. I would say Captain Guinness will definitely run. I don't know whether Willie would run both an Ergamine and Black Bow. Be interesting if he did. I would probably take Captain Guinness on the face of things. I did quite like him last year. His run on his chase debut was awful, but he was nice last time out. And I would say, I know you're going to tell us for 5 minutes why an Ergamine is going to win the Arkle, but I can't have him over 2 miles whatsoever. I think he needs at least 2.5. So I'd have Captain Guinness maybe to have a bit more speed.
I think you were just absolutely struggling to hold yourself back because you know how bullish or how much you discounted an Ergamine up until now. And I think you're just being stubborn now, Andrew Blair. I think you know he's going to win. And in Ronan Groome, have you thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really good race. There's not much point speculating because I guess most people will have declarations by the time they're listening to this. But I think an Ergamine would probably be more likely to run just because he missed Christmas and probably they told connections that this was the race for him. And Black Bow obviously fell, so this is kind of second choice for them. But he might run too, which would be brilliant. The Ergamine form at Gowan Park isn't amazing, but the time he recorded was amazing, really. And that's the key, I guess. It was an excellent comparative time on the day compared to the other 2.5 mile races. Dropping down to 2 miles, I think Paul Townend feels that 2 miles could be okay for him, that he could drop it down and trip. But Captain Guinness is a fair tool now on the Punchestown run, beating a good horse in Midnight Run, beating him quite well. So this could be a grade 2 easily, this race. It's only a normal novice chase. It could be a grade 1, to be honest. When you compare it to the races that were run at Christmas, they're all kind of the same sort of style, unexposed horses who've won quite well. Good hurdlers from last season who've won quite well in their chase debut. So looking forward to it. I know you're looking forward to it, but if you're offering the same price, I go with Captain Guinness versus an Ergamine. I don't know how they're going to price it up, but I'd say I'd take him back over the 2 miles.
It will be interesting to see how they price it up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Black Bow did go here as well, considering he went fairly early on at Leopardstown, and I think the Joseph O'Brien horse won nicely last time. I'd say he'd have to improve a fair bit to get involved here, but he could be a nice horse going forward.
He's dropping in trip is quite significant for me, Barry. He's dropping in trip, but of course Joseph didn't have a good Christmas, did he?
Lads, it's that time of the podcast, and I suppose the first naps and NBs of the new year. Andrew Blair White, start with you. Nap and NB of the weekend.
Yeah, my nap comes at Kempton, the 145 3 mile handicap chase. The old timer double shuffle in this at 8-1. His run was pretty good around Christmas time when he came third, went off too hard out in front and was beaten by a horse called Royal Pagaille, who's been put up the guts of 2 stones since. So that looks pretty decent form. I do think he's got one of these course and distance handicaps in him. And a horse which I'm not sure for my MB, he's got dual entries and he's jocked up in both. I think based off prices, Wincanton looks to be the most likely option for a horse called Evander for Ollie Greenall. He is also in at Kempton in the 110, but he's favourite at Wincanton for the big 2.5 mile handicap chase. Looks a progressive horse, like the way he did it at Doncaster last time, and he'd be my MB.
Brilliant stuff. Mike Vince, take it away.
Yeah, that Wincanton, just to follow up on what Andrew was saying, that Wincanton race is an unbelievable mess to the extent that there are 9 runners and they've all, or at least I think either 8 of them or all 9, have got double engagements at Wincanton and Kempton. And so what we're looking at now could be a very different race, because I actually thought Gala Ball was one of the day's better bets in that race at Wincanton. But it's also entered at Chepstow. So, anything can happen. For me, I'm going to nap more in hope than in expectation. That horse in the Lanzarote of Lucy Wadham's. It's a day when naps and NB should be trusted to the Clairvoyance Monthly team and not to people like me who really haven't got a clue. But I just think it's a decent each way price and a sporting nap. You're going to ask me its name, and I've forgotten its name. Its name is The White Mouse. And next best, I'll go Ramses to tie in the Welsh National.
Mike Vince, you're underselling yourself there. In fairness to you, you've been delivering the goods when it comes to naps and MBs. I'm sure if it was to a level points, you would be well in profit for
I'd have enough profit to buy those batteries for that clock.
Ronan, nap and MB the weekend.
Yeah, and Napa going with Imperial Aura. I don't like going short. I guess we'd like to pick a price, but I just think hovering around the even money mark there is too good to be true, really. Don't rate his opposition that much. I don't think they're in hugely great form, like the Riders on the Storm and Master Tommy Tucker. And I just thought he was, he probably could be a 2's-on shot by the time they come off. He'll get to dominate from the front. So I thought he was one of the better even money shots I've seen in a while. And You Never Call. So given a big day to David Bass and Kim Bailey earlier on in the Irel Keel, I think he like his course and distance form around Kempton, and I think he can run a big race as well. So there's 2.
And nap, I've already given it Everglow for Philip Hobbs in the Lanzarote. I think his mark of 126, I think he's going to smash it out of the park. I can't see. Well, hopefully he will. I think it's a very, very good mark for Everglow. Tongue strap on for the first time. I think the ground coming up on the soft side is going to suit him, and he's very unexposed still. That's Everglow. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't hit the frame. Yeah, my next best comes in the 2:35 at Wincanton, lads. It's over 2 miles and 4 furlongs. Good to soft ground. I think Glenn Force, I showed a glimpse the last day at Cheltenham. Look, he was an Arkle contender 2 seasons ago after, I suppose, winning over 3 miles. This 2.5 miles to 3 miles, I think, is his trip. If the ground, I suppose, comes up a little bit on the softer side again, I'd fancy his chances even more. But 150, I think he could be competitive off that. Harry Skelton is booked for the ride for Mick Shannon, and Andrew, looks like we're going head to head there in the 2:35. But yeah, that's Glen Forsa each way at 10-1 next best. As that concludes another podcast, episode 11 for the season on the Champ.ie podcast. Thanks to Paddy Kennedy. Thanks to yourselves, I suppose, for coming on once again. And Andrew, we'll be back again next Monday to give our anti-post selections. Maybe Ronan Groome might make a cameo appearance.
I would not be worthy.